Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of A Quiet Place 2. Alright, cast and crew information down below, and we'll start off with the IMDb plot as usual. Following the events at home, the Abbott family now face the terrors of the outside world, as we do every day. Forced to venture into the unknown, they realize the creatures that hunt by sound are not the only threats lurking beyond the sand path. We like the sand path. Stay on the sand path. Yeah, as expected, you have the monsters and, of course, the human monsters here in this movie. But not as much as they may lead to believe there. I think they wanted you to think that maybe humans would be at play more in this one, but after reading that, I don't think so. I think they still give you plenty of alien action in this one. So, kind of just jumping ahead there, but that's kind of my thought when I read that. But anyway, yeah. This one is, without a doubt, was one of my most anticipated movies. Um, BC, before COVID, that I wanted to see. Really wish I could have seen it in theaters. I did not. I had to stay home and watch it on the small screen here. So that was unfortunate, but I'm sure it was amazing on the big screen. And so yeah, it is. I love A Quiet Place. I really enjoyed the first movie. Enjoyed what they did with the sound, how they presented the story. Obviously, how the story kind of concludes. Kind of a sad ending there in part one. Not going to give it away in case you've never seen part one, in which case I'm not sure why you're watching the review for part two. But anyway, yeah, so I'm excited. I was very excited for this one, and it's one of the ones I'm really sad that I had to wait so long, even longer now. I didn't even get to see this in theaters. So I know it's been out for a little while now, and other people have already seen it. So it's good to finally get to catch it. And as you can tell, I liked it. May not even have to wait till the end to see that I liked it. So I'm excited that it's going to be a trilogy. I'm excited that they're going to do a third movie. Excited that there's going to be a spinoff. I'm excited that this kind of branch out into a universe thing. Hopefully that doesn't ruin it though. I think so far so good. But depending on what they do, the more sometimes a franchise goes out, the more damage sometimes it causes than good. But we'll see. But so far so good. So as far as this movie's concerned, it basically starts on day one. So as opposed to them maybe doing a prequel movie, I know some people when they first showed this trailer thought that this was going to be a prequel. And I guess that they do leave room in between the events of what we saw in the first movie and even later in this movie to day one. Obviously, there's plenty of room there to work with if they wanted to revisit that. But they do start on day one, and you get to see the family kind of go through when these alien creatures kind of appear. So you're going to get to see that and kind of when that kind of kicks off. And won't go through too many details because I don't want to ruin it. And I'll try to keep this whole review as spoiler free as possible, as usual. But, it kind of lands in a baseball field where you see the family. And I was kind of thinking of kind of took me back to the Crazies where everything in that town seemed good until things went wrong in that baseball field, and then it went all downhill from there. Kind of started almost the same way here. The family ends up at a baseball game, and then long and behold, these aliens are flying across the sky here, and create a really good action scene to kind of start the movie. You get reintroduced to the family, and you kind of see them when things were regular and regular time, and you get a quick glimpse of them, and then a really cool action scene. And as a matter of fact, the trailer kind of ruined part of that action scene. But really, really cool how they did it, and kind of sets the mood for the action to come in this movie. And then, so you kind of see some aliens appear, the family's introduction to them, and then bam, it takes you back to basically where the first movie ended, and you kind of see where the family's picking up the pieces of what just happened in the first movie. So, not you're not missing too much time there. And you got, if you saw the first movie, you know what this family's just gone through, and you know what it means for them to kind of get up and kind of move on from here. They don't really go too much into the emotional stuff. They kind of maybe give you a hint here or there, but basically, you're gonna see the family basically like pack up whatever they need and kind of move forward and on the sand path, as they so call it. And then they're going to quickly find themselves in danger again, because, to have this movie going, they need to be in danger. So they're going to move down a sand path, come into an area that kind of sets off a chain of events where noise is made, they have to run, here come the aliens, and then they run into people or a person. And, is this person friend or foe? And then X, Y, and Z events happen after that. I really don't want to spoil anything for you. Since this is a new movie, since this is an anticipated movie, since this is a sequel, since I really like it, I don't really want to ruin too much for you guys. So I'll just kind of leave it at that and down the road. But like I said, they hinted more human danger. I'm going to say there is human danger in this movie, but not at the extent that maybe it hints in that IMDb description. You're going to see the aliens. You're going to see much more of the aliens this time around. Whether you like that or not, whether you go for that CGI or not, or that's going to be kind of up to you. I didn't think it was too bad. I enjoyed it. They really have some ugly faces when you come down to it, but overall they're not, amazing creatures, but they are what they are. And I think obviously the most interesting thing about them is sound. And if you saw part one, when sound is introduced to them, a loud sound that is, or a certain high pitched sound, and they kind of scream or whatever, that's kind of when they're the most interesting and most ugly. But otherwise than that, then yeah, they are quick. They run. They jump, across, and they climb, and they do all kinds of things. And I guess the one thing you're not really ever certain of is like, what is their end game here? Obviously, there's no communication. There's obviously sound is important, but there's no communication between the aliens and people. The aliens are just there, and they're just annihilating everybody for what reason. Are they eating people? We still don't really know too much about them. We just basically know how sound plays a role with them, and how that helps you kill them, and how it helps you survive or die if you make too much sound with them. So that's basically all you really know. You kind of get a look at them. There's probably one other detail about them you'll find out much later in this film, which kind of makes sense, kind of temporarily helps, but then because of the way the events unfold, maybe it doesn't. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm not going to give it away. So you do learn that, at least one more piece of information, and basically, you're along for the ride in the family. The family doesn't know, a whole much more than you know about these creatures, about these aliens. So every situation they face or they come across with them, you're going to see a couple of different family members basically each face their own alien at least some point in this movie. And you're going to see, which way they adapt and how they try to survive the situation that they find themselves in. and obviously in some cases sound is going to play a role one way or the other. Obviously they can't make too much noise, or they're going to play that off of the creature. Um, One thing I thought they would do more of, but they never seem to do, is and maybe because the aliens won't go for it, or I don't know, but I would have thought maybe if you had something that you could throw and throw in another direction, you make some noise, and the alien would go in that direction. Um, I guess that's my survival go-to in this case, but they never seem to do that. So I don't know if it's just something that these aliens are just not going to go for, or they want to come up with more creative ways than that. But I guess that would have been my survival technique. Um, but I guess talking about some other things. I talked about this on the podcast, and one of the enjoyable things about this, and about part one as well, is the whole sound angle. And I made the point of we have horror movies. Sound is obviously important in horror. It's obviously a part of it. It's part of every movie. And the sound and the music. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different, depending on what movie, what situation, and so forth. But when you have I like slashers obviously, and when you have a lot of slasher movies, you have those moments where person is wandering around, and you know that the slasher is getting closer, because either the music is going, or there's a certain sound that's following, and it's getting louder and louder and louder, and then bam, and then and you're kind of tipped off, and sometimes it is the killer, and then sometimes it's a cat that jumps out, and you're like, oh, maybe it scares you, maybe it doesn't. So my point there is kind of yeah, well, it's a big part of it. Maybe sometimes it would be nice to not have it, not to have that sound, not to have that tip off that something's going to come. As horror fans, I think, we often complain that we're just not scared. We don't get scared. We're not scared that often. It's harder to scare us because we've seen it all. And I think part of it is not only seeing what's going on screen, but obviously the music cues or the sound cues. You know what they're going for, so that's not helping you not be scared, because between seeing what's going on and between hearing what's going on, what's going to happen. So you're obviously not going to get scared. Maybe some other people are scared. Maybe somebody who's new to horror is going to get scared or whatever, but you're not going to get scared. So my point is, it's not getting rid of the sound and the music and so forth, but maybe it would be nice to see more horror movies, or just, maybe some new ones that try a different angle with the sound, or try different things with sound, kind of like in this movie. The young girl in this movie, she's obviously deaf, she can't hear, and that plays a big part of the storyline. But as opposed to just saying that she does, and there's when they decided to make that role and do that role for her, they could have just said, oh, she doesn't hear anything, and then just continued with sound regardless, and played sound throughout the movie, and let it roll, and they didn't have to. But instead, they topped that by, okay, we're going to take things from her perspective from time to time, and you're not going to hear anything. The audience is not going to hear anything. She's not going to hear anything. So you're going to kind of be in her shoes, and I think that adds something. It makes you pay attention. It makes you be more visual, like she is. I think for someone like me who often watches a lot of horror at home, and going through screeners and stuff, and I'm usually working at the same time. I'm not always staring at the screen. Sometimes I'm looking away, and when I do, obviously, I'm paying attention to the sound. What is happening sound-wise, and I can, like I just mentioned, you can tell here, is something about to happen. Well, the music is telling you, so I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and I'm going to look over to the screen, kind of see, okay, I really need to pay attention here. If it's just two people in a room talking, I can do my thing over here to the side, listen to their conversation. I don't really need to see what they're doing, um, and still know, the gist of what is happening in the movie. So, obviously, with A Quiet Place, if I'm looking over to the side and all of a sudden the sound drops and there's nothing, the first thing I'm doing is just moving my head over and I'm looking, okay, what is happening? Because there's no more sound. So, in order for me to know what's going on, I need to see. um, so, and then obviously I'm going to be cued in and looking a little bit harder than I might not have since I don't have that sound. So I like having that perspective and that change, and I like how they do that. And then you don't know when, also, not only is it turning it off, but you don't know when the second they're going to turn that back on. So you're just waiting. You're like, are they going to turn it on now? Are they going to turn it on now? I guess my small complaint was I wish they would have maybe kept it off a little bit longer than they did. Um, I rewatched maybe 2/3 of the movie a second time, and um, I one of the things I wanted to pay attention to is when they did the whole sound thing with her, and I wish they would have held it a little longer. I understand the fear then. Then you make people maybe a little bit anxious. You're watching in the theater. Did the sound go off? If you're watching at home, is there something wrong with my iPad or whatever? So maybe you're getting people anxious and you don't want them to think something's wrong. But I would have liked if they would have just held it just a little bit longer in some of the circumstances there. But anyway, I liked that change. I liked that switch. I liked how it was sudden. You didn't necessarily know. There's one shot of her, sound goes down and blah blah, and something just happened. You're kind of in her boat. What is happening. Obviously, something might be happening because of what just happened. But is it happening? How is it happening? And you kind of have to pick up on that visually as opposed to hearing, the music get louder or another different kind of sound cue. I liked that, So it's not the horror needs to get rid of it or anything like that. It's just it would be nice to see that angle, or maybe somebody can come up with a creative way to kind of mix the sound in the movie in a different way, so as to not tip you off as always. Obviously, one of the greatest sounds is Jaws. Here he comes, dun 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 dun, and as the music gets more intense, he's coming. So obviously that is probably one of the best examples of it. But it was always more fun when maybe that music wasn't going, and then all of a sudden just bam, Jaws appeared, or bam, Jaws hit the boat, or something else was going on. That was maybe a little bit more scare worthy. As much as you enjoy the Jaws sound, maybe it was just a little bit more scarier when Jaws just appeared. Anyway, I guess another quick example is if you've seen the movie Dead Silence. That's always another go-to I go to when I talk about sound. They kind of always reversed it. Whenever something bad was going to happen, the sound went out, and you just very, very heard the natural situation that or whatever was going on in it, and that there was no music, there was no extra sound. It was just whatever was happening. So and I think that was an added thing to that movie. I think the movie was good regardless, but that just added, and it was different. So it's not about replacing anything. It's just about being different. And I think horror fans obviously appreciate that because all we do is complain about remakes and we want new stuff and different stuff. Well, sometimes being different is how you do things, and then messing with the sound could be a thing. Is if you want to still present, a similar situation, but do something different with the sound or music and so forth. So that's obviously a big point of this movie, and another reason why I like it. And I guess the other point I kind of want to make before wrapping this up is I can see people watching this movie, and I think. For me, I don't always get, kind of attached to characters, attached to people. I know, part of writing and when they develop characters is trying to get the audience to feel for certain characters, to feel certain ways. Sometimes to really like them, and then sometimes to really hate them. And the ones that you hate, they always live a little bit longer just to piss you off. But I think when watching A Quiet Place, especially if you've watched the first one and how the first one ends, I think they really try to suck you into this family and make you feel for them. And I think that if you're going to enjoy the movie, the more you kind of get involved with this family and kind of root for them and root for them because of what happens at the end of the first one, root for them because they have a baby, root for them because the kids have special needs, which adds another different element. We don't see a lot of characters like that. So that's also, just another little small tweak there that gives you something different, something new, something that you don't always see. But I think you need to get involved with the family and whatever. If you're just kind of like, this family's just another family and I don't care and blah, 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 and you're just watching the aliens jump around, then I think it almost starts to turn into like just another alien, another creature movie, blah, blah. They're just killing people and that's it. I think the more you kind of like the family and so forth, and they don't drill down on too many details. There's still a lot to be unknown about this family. Like I said, even though they do start the movie off showing the family before they're showing it, from basically right when the aliens are coming. So it's not like you're getting 20 days prior to that day even and seeing how the family was before that. You're seeing a couple of minutes of how that family was prior to this happening, and then this happens. So there's still a lot to be unknown. Basically, how much they love each other, and that's it, and how much they sacrifice to pick each other up within their like the girl has special needs she can't hear, or caring for the baby, and the baby obviously depends on the rest of the family. So I think that's an important thing. So I think, not that I went out and I read any other reviews or whatever, but I'm just kind of picturing maybe some people that are like maybe already tired of it after a second one, or maybe just didn't think that it's worth. I'm only imagining them saying that just because they really just didn't buy into the family, and therefore it just becomes another movie. But that's just a large assumption on my part. So with that, I guess you didn't really have to sit through all this because I kind of said it at the top how much I like this movie. I really did. So I'm going to give it 4 pools of blood. I actually went back and looked, and I gave the first one 4.5 pools of blood, and that again is out of 5. Kind of wondering, I didn't read my review of the first one. I'm thinking why I didn't give it 5. I don't know why I didn't give it 5. Is a sequel better than the first one? I'm gonna say no. I and obviously giving it 4 and the first one 4.5, kind of says that. But like I said, I didn't really have any major complaints about this movie either. Like I said, I don't remember having too many complaints about the first movie, and I don't think they kind of hit you on the same emotional level. And obviously, what they did in the first one is hard to do. And I'm being careful with what I say. I don't want to spoil anything, but it is hard to do without almost maybe duplicating what they did in the first one, in case which is a ripoff and might not, work, for taking the story forward. But yeah, just being careful there. Don't want to give anything away one way or the other, but. Yeah, like I said, the only, minor complaint I might have had is like to do the sound thing a little longer and, maybe a thing here or there, but nothing major, nothing, extreme here. I enjoyed the movie, enjoyed the acting, enjoy watching the situation that they're in, and just know that I would be dead, and you, like I said, you saw my survival technique. I don't know if that would work or not. But definitely can appreciate that and you know, you think about it in a zombie world, you know, you kind of want to be quiet, but you don't necessarily have to be. Um, you know, you can make noise when you want and so forth. Sometimes it's not to your benefit, but you can make noise. In this case, it's like you can make no noise. Like apparently these creatures or these aliens are everywhere, and or their hearing is just so good that you know you're you know making anything slightly noisy and they're coming. I mean, even talking regularly. Um, so yeah, it's just a crazy universe that they've created and a fascinating one as well. So you know, just imagine, you know, we all have our phones and whatever. You wouldn't, you know, who are you gonna call? You're not gonna call anybody. And phones make noise. You're not gonna use the phones, and we're so attached to them these days. Like that would be all out the window. Um, and you just technology's all out the window, and there's basic survival, and then on top of it having to not make noise, it's just insane on top of it because we make noise, and some people don't shut up. Like I just keep, you know, mumbling on here with this review. Some people can't shut up, so if you're with one of those people that just have to talk, they're dead, or you're dead because you're with them. I don't know. Crazy world that they've created. Anyway, speaking of that, time for me to be quiet. So with that, again, 4 Pools of Blood, and as usual, subscribe to the channel for more video reviews. Always appreciate the subscriptions. HorrorScoreReviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all the reviews, written and the video reviews. Definitely encourage you to go and check out some of the written ones, even if you're just looking for the Pools of Blood. You can always find that at the bottom of the reviews. But yeah, definitely lots of stuff from Shudder on their written reviews. Do a lot of my reviews that are off Shudder are written reviews. So if you're looking for some of those or some of the newer movies that are coming out, obviously this one's a new one, but you know, maybe some of the not so big, or you know, if I would have went to theaters, I probably would have written a review in the old days for this one. But anyway. Twitter, Facebook, information down below as well. You can reach out to me there. You can talk about this movie, talk about other horror. Always game to talk horror. If you have something you want me to review, you can reach out to me there or in the comment section here. See if I can do that. I try to accommodate as much as possible, but it's always busy. So yeah, with that, again, one more time, 4 Pools of Blood for A Quiet Place 2. It is time for me to be quiet, and I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.